Namaste, yogis. It's Adrian and Mia with How Yoga Changed My Life, a podcast. I had to call out Mia today because she is not feeling too well. Mia, what's going on?
Just under the weather.
Very under the weather. She is, what's the word I'm looking for? You are trudging through your day today. Before we get started with our guest today, Mia, tell me, how has your week been?
My week has been fine. Obviously, I'm under the weather now, so that's always a bummer. But leading up to this, had a very nice, smooth week at work. Had a good track meet with the athletes yesterday, and I'm really enjoying the weather we're having. It's been a very, very mild, San Antonio weather.
Yeah.
At this point, we're usually already dealing with like 100-degree temps, and today and yesterday I've been like in the 70s, so it's been really beautiful in that sense.
It's been amazing. We had a huge storm blow through last night, and my husband and I were both asleep, and all of a sudden it was like, felt like we were being bombed and attacked, and we had hail the size of like Mentos outside. And so we went outside, and it was just hailing. I mean, full on fucking hailing. I've never seen anything like it before. We had huge piles of it too. And then I got back in bed and I went, shit, I should have taken some pictures because it was really crazy. And the experience was just nuts with the thunder and the lightning and everything. But then, then a few minutes, it was gone. It was quick. Yeah, I'm bummed because Mia and I were supposed to go today to Miraval in Austin because that's where Ashley Weber works. And Ashley is a really good friend of ours. She has also been on our podcast. She has her own podcast. If you haven't listened to Ashley's episode, it's about Santosha. It's early on. Ashley's podcast is called Yoga and we were very bummed that we didn't get to see her today, but Mia's health is the utmost importance for this podcast and for everyone involved. We got to make sure that you're healthy first. But there is definitely something going around because a lot of people have had like a stomach bug, like throwing up and feeling sick lately and being out of work. It's been going around for sure.
Yeah, I think it's just a combination. I feel like it almost started as allergies and then kind of trying to push forward, and it caught up and running on empty, and then I feel like I had a fever, so I don't even know really.
It's okay.
What about you, Adrian? How was your week?
My week was really good. It started off a little rough. I had a lot of learning still to do at work, so I'm kind of working through myself and not being too frustrated with how sometimes I can learn quickly and sometimes I learn a little bit slower, and not getting so frustrated with it and trying to be perfect inside and out. It doesn't work that way. So I have to drop a lot of that drama in my head. But I am now going to be hosting some personal training sessions and intro to yoga sessions, which I'm super excited about because I feel like working in a club, we have the opportunity to touch so many different people that have never tried yoga before. So doing these kind of like little intro to yoga private sessions, I think is a great way to just introduce yoga in a very personalized way to someone. And if I can bring yoga into one person's life more than I have in the past, then that makes me super happy. I had a great team meeting. Mallory had her spring show for dance. So they had like, it was like 2.5 hours long, which I know when Mallory's a senior, I'm going to really appreciate it. But because she's a freshman, it was a little long, to be quite honest with you. But because it was all about the seniors, now I kind of understand why it was so long. They have a group. It's so cute. They call them the prop pops. So they're the dads that volunteer every week to help cart water bottles and equipment and all of the little things that they need to be able to do their jobs of the dancers and the cheerleaders and the squads on the field. And so they call them prop pops, and they did a dance, and it was hilarious. It was so cute. It was just neat to see the dads up there kind of having fun. I'm sure all the girls were behind the stage like just cringing in their teenage years of, oh my God, my dad's so embarrassing. But I think they got a kick out of it anyway. And then
That's cute.
it was really cute. It was really cute. The other thing that was funny was, well, not funny, but it was kind of sad, was Campbell. During the show, Campbell went with me to see it, and they had each of the seniors up on stage with their father, and they would dance on the stage, and each person would like kind of come up in a circle, and the girl would be announced, and she would pull a flag off of her dad's like sleeve, and it would be the college that she's going to. And so they would do like a little dance each. It was almost like a little moment on stage for them, you know? It was really, really cute. And Campbell and I both were like tearing up a bunch of times, thinking ahead that we only have a few months left with Campbell before she's going to school.
Yeah.
So, and then Nick had his
super cute tradition.
Isn't that a cute tradition?
Mm-hmm.
I like really thought that was adorable. That made me happy. And then Nick, my stepson's birthday was yesterday on 4/20, which I think is so cute. But we got to text with him yesterday and wish him a happy birthday. He's at Talladega today at the NASCAR race, which I'm super jealous about. But that's about it. Busy week, great week. And yeah, now here we are. Let's get into this episode. What do you think?
I'm really excited to share this episode with our listeners. Gabe, who also goes by Damien, is one of our listeners who found the podcast through an earlier guest. So it's a very cool full circle moment for our podcast to have guests on the podcast that get out to new listeners that then turn over to new guests. So that's something I'm excited about for this one.
Me too. And the fact that he actually knows a few of our guests. He knows Johnny Southside and Shay. And that to me is just really cool to see how, you know, yoga brought them together and how we're bringing them together on the podcast.
Yeah. So let's get into it. Here's our interview with Gabe.
Sounds good.
Is this piece on your arm new?
This one?
Yeah.
Yes, that one is new. So it's actually a cover up.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think you can see what used to be under there.
Mm-mm. Where'd you get it done? Here in San Antonio?
Yeah, so this one, can I say the name?
Sure. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So the guy, his name is Tony. I think he goes by Tony Trophies.
Okay.
What's wild is the reason I found him is I work at a boxing gym, and that gym followed one tattoo artist. That tattoo artist followed the gym. So then I started looking at his work, and I said, I really like this guy's work.
Yeah.
And I used to have a mermaid that was like cut from the guts, you know, spilled out.
Like entrail.
Guts.
Isn't that what it's called? Yeah, the entrails.
Yeah, like she looked decapitated and she was naked. And so I had a bunch of clients like often like point out the boobs or, and I think the last straw was I was doing a kids class at the gym.
Oh, no.
And this little girl, and I love her, she's amazing. She came up to me and she's like, so coach, why do you have a naked woman on your arm? And I said, oh my goodness. I go, pay attention to your jump rope. Like, go jump rope. Like, what are you doing up here? Like, don't ask questions during your warm-up. So I got it covered, and he did amazing. Like, I told him, you know,
really cool.
I want something to cover it. I've had it for too long, and I think I got it when I was like 18, 19.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one is actually pretty recent.
It looks good.
Looks
It looks
really
good.
Thank you. Yeah, you can barely even see where.
Yeah, just a little bit at the bottom.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But it almost, you would think it's part of the design.
Yeah.
Yeah, her head's like right here. I can still see it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Because you know.
Exactly. I know. We both love tattoos.
Yeah.
I just got this one recently.
Oh yeah, that's nice.
It
It looks fresh.
I wish that I had known that you could do a single needle when I had all my other tattoos done, because I feel like this is more me, like the thin line and
single
such.
needle.
Yeah, instead of like the thicker, like the one on my leg is pretty thick.
Oh yeah.
Like if I had had it like that, I probably would have liked it a little bit better. But I still love my tattoos.
Have you heard of like tattoo artists say bold will hold?
Yeah.
Bold will hold.
Yeah, so that inspired this one. I was like, give me some bold lines. Like I want the
that.
boldest
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, it's true. Bold does hold.
Yeah.
This was my first one was here, but then I had it added on to, and now I want to like do something totally different.
Add on
and
to it.
change it. Yeah, change it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We'll get started.
Yep. Ready. Namaste, yogis. This is Adrian,
And Mia.
and we have a special guest for you today. Introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Gabriel, or you can call me Damien.
It's Damien. Nice.
Mhm.
Well, welcome to How Yoga Changed My Life, a podcast. So we're really excited, Gabe, that you reached out to us from one of our other guests that we had on the pod, the lovely Shay. And we just want to have you introduce yourself. Tell our listeners a little bit about yourself.
My name's Gabriel. I just moved here about 3 years ago, originally from the Valley, 956, Weslaco, Texas, sandwiched in between McAllen and South Padre Island. Those are the first cities people like really know to know where the valley's at.
Yeah.
But I've been practicing yoga consistently for about, I would say, 2 years, a year and a half, close to two. And I also graduated YTT about a few months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank
You
you,
dove
thank you.
head first. You were like, I like this. Now I'm going to do this.
Yeah, like I don't even know where I'm going right now in life, but yoga is a huge part of it for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Tell us a little bit about how you know Shay. And you were telling us before the episode kind of how she's encouraged you in this yoga journey so far.
So I met Shay really early on when I first started my yoga practice. And when I started my yoga practice, it was very like physical for me. Then I met Shay, and I know she wasn't targeting me in class, but she would speak things like after like the whole flow, she would have like words and just kind of like stuff for like everybody to think about a little bit. And sometimes I'd feel it like inside, and I'd be like, "Damn, she's speaking facts. Like, is she targeting me? Because I need to hear this." And so since then, like I always felt drawn to her classes. I was always doing her classes. I think like one time she was like telling me that she graduated from YTT, and she said, "You should apply. You should be a teacher. Like you're in here all the time. Might as
Mhm.
well like do a teacher training." And that's where it all started. She told me about, applying for a scholarship program
Mhm.
and seeing if you could get accepted. And I did. Like everything just went like out of control. I applied for it, I got the call, and then they told me, "Would you like to accept the offer?" And I said, "Of course. Like
That's huge.
this is like my life right now. Like I love yoga. Like
Yeah.
of course I want to go through with it." And not just for me, but for my two sons, because I
Mm.
want to give them like the best version of myself.
I
So
love that.
yeah, and Shay like really like pushed me and guided me through the whole process.
That's
She was
huge.
always there. She was always checking in on me. How's, YTT? When are you going to graduate? I need your help, like doing some classes. And
Mhm.
so she like really was always there as a guide as well. A lot of times I was telling her like, the stuff we're learning in YTT, it makes me see the world like in a really wild new perspective, and I don't know if this is normal. And she would tell me, yeah, like these feelings are normal,
Yeah.
this is just you're peeling layers from stuff, I
Yeah.
guess, going on with
Yeah.
your life.
Yeah. It's really like earlier we were talking to another guest and she was like, it's almost like clearing out a cluttered closet, right? It's
Mhm.
like, and then kind of getting to, oh, wow, I forgot about that shirt
Yeah.
that's buried underneath it there that I haven't seen in a long time. So, what brought you to a yoga class, your first yoga
Mm.
class?
That one is like such a wild story, for me at least. So all my life, I've always been like I like the heavier physical activities.
Mhm.
So forever I did like boxing. Uh, so I'm just gonna give these details because it blends in with how I got into yoga.
Mhm.
I was maybe 19, 20 years old, hanging out with the wrong people, and we got into a car accident, and it like misplaced some disc,
Oh.
caused some disc bulges. I had pinched nerves in the knees. at the time I was doing like boxing nonstop, and then they told me, the doctor said, we're gonna need you to stop all of that type of training, at least for a year. And one of the options is surgery, or you can just do PT. They scared me with the surgery though, because they said there's a chance that like you might walk with a limp or one of your
Yeah.
legs is gonna drag.
Oh my God.
That scared me. I went home. I remember I cried to my mom and I told her, like, it's over. I can't do anything anymore.
Yeah.
But stubborn me, like I did the PT, started training. I first started yoga about a year ago. Another incident happened where I was riding my bike in downtown San Antonio,
Mm.
and it was my first group ride. There was like 30, 40 people, and it was at night. So I thought it was like going to be amazing, super fun, like this is awesome type of deal. I'm
Yeah.
new to San Antonio. So I get to that event and I got hit by a vehicle.
Oh,
And again, they told me, you're back. You re-injured it. Now you're L4, L5, blah, blah, blah. You have bulged disc again. And
oh my gosh.
so at the time I was planning for a 10K, and the doctor said, you can't run anymore. We're sorry. Like, try to stay off of that. And I never understood the injury. And then a friend, a client of mine, would always notice me go to work because I coach classes of boxing. And he told me, have you tried yoga before? And I said, no, what is that? Like, where do I do this? And he's like, there's several places, I'm sure, in San Antonio. You can look up videos on YouTube, but try it out. It might be good on your back. And that's where it started for me. I tried it out. I did a class here locally, and I loved it. It was not high impact like running.
Right.
I realized running, when you run, your spine is absorbing all that impact and
Yeah.
shock. That would hurt my back. Yoga didn't. Few poses did later on though, but
Mm-hmm.
more understanding of the pose and what you need to use, to
Yeah.
to hit the pose. That really helped with the back problems. So then I started realizing, I think it started with like 3 sessions a week, 2 sessions a week,
Mm-hmm.
and then it went to like one a day, like every day. Yeah, just one, sometimes two, and that's where like it all started. I noticed changes in my back. It was getting stronger.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was where it started.
That's so
First
cool.
yoga here in San Antonio.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting how usually there's a shift in someone's life, right? There's an accident, there's a death, there's a change of location, there's a change of friendships, whatever it may be that brings people to their yoga mat. And when you get there and you realize, like, oh shit, this would be so awesome to learn when I was a kid, because I might not have had the injuries that I've had. Like obviously your injuries were accidents.
Mhm.
But it could have helped you when you were 18 too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Exactly. I'm not allowed to run yet anymore either. My doctor said no more running because I've had 3 hip surgeries in the past 4 years, just really bad bones. And my doctor's like, nope, no more running for you.
Mm.
I'm like, so I always tell people now, I'm like, I don't get to run unless I'm being chased.
Yeah, and there's gonna be a time, but
yeah,
not
yeah,
right
exactly.
now.
But
But
that's
I'll
not
be
now.
ready. I'll be ready for that.
Yeah.
So you said you work at a boxing gym.
Yes, I've been here. So when I moved to San Antonio, it was like new everything, new city. I got given the chance to like get custody of my 2 boys.
Mm.
And this, basically the government said, we need you in one spot, find a job there so we see that you're trying, and, let the rest unfold.
Yeah.
So I found an ad for like a boxing trainer, and I applied and I got the job after like 2 weeks.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool because they had me like go in for 2 weeks and take their classes, just to see if like I liked it. And at the end, the owner said, my husband really likes you, and we want to like give you the offer to like, work here.
Nice.
And they've been like super supportive throughout the whole process that went on with the kids and like my personal life. They were there, working with my schedule, their schedule. When I needed the hours, they
Yeah.
gave me the hours. when I needed the breaks, they gave me the breaks.
Yeah.
So it's
That's
been
amazing.
Yeah.
Now, does your boy's mother live in San Antonio?
She's also from the valley,
Okay.
so she lives out there.
Okay. Okay.
How old are your boys?
I have two boys, 11 and 13, Damien and Logan.
It's awesome.
Yeah, they're wild.
I know
They're wild.
I've got two teenage girls. You've got two preteen or teen boys.
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't even imagine.
the teenage years are creeping up. I see it.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
just wait. Well, at least you don't have girls.
Uh,
Girls will, they will age you quickly. Like they will just tear at your soul.
yeah.
Like they'll tell you the truth even when you don't want to hear it.
Oh,
You're just like, oh God. So boxing, I never was a boxer. Like I tried karate and I loved like the discipline of it. But when it came to sparring and actually like faux hitting someone else,
Mhm.
I really struggled with that.
Mm.
And I loved boxing. Like I take group classes at a different place and I would go and I would box. I ended up hurting my finger doing a yoga pose, so I couldn't box for a while. But I really enjoy it. Like, how did you get into boxing?
Okay, so that I like how like you hurt yourself doing yoga and then in boxing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. So the way I got into it, I don't even remember. Okay, yes I do. So what happened in school, I was like a rascal. Like I was such an asshole like towards a lot of people in my teenage years and 20s, late 20s as well. But when I got into it, we used to hang out, me and a big group of friends, and they invited me to someone's house to hang out, drink, and like, just do stupid stuff. Eventually, someone brought up the idea we should like box each other. And everybody like was okay, let's do it. Everybody like, who wants to participate, who doesn't? And at that age, I was like, dude, I don't want to feel left out. And I did not know how to fight. But
Yeah.
I said, you know what? I'll do it. And they put me against a friend, a huge dude, like giant, way more athletic than me. We played football in the past. He would like outrun me, everything. And he looked at me and he said, are you sure you want to do this? And I said, dude, let's do it. Let's just get it over with. And he like hit me like twice in the head, once in the nose. And I remember thinking to myself, I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this is wild. Like, I thought it was like the movies or,
Yeah, like instinctual. Like I would
Yeah.
know how to. I always feel like if I were ever to get in a fight, it would be like a fight in my dream where like you try to punch something in your dream and you're just like, you can't do it,
I hate those dreams.
I hate those dreams.
Those suck. Yeah. So that's where it like started. I think I went looking around for gyms and I found one. It was on top of another gym that back in the day, and I say that like lightly because it was probably 2010.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but in those times it was a little different. 10 years has been a long time, and that gym had like no AC. The AC was windows open. It was very dim, like the floor was just cement, walls were cinder blocks. It was wild. I got there and I asked, hey, I'm looking for a trainer, and the guy that taught me took me under his wing like for 10 months almost.
Wow.
Yeah, like straight. At the time, like I was getting into trouble, but there was a small shift where I was like, I really love this. Like this is
The
what I want to do.
discipline of it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I think it was very disciplined because he'd get after me often and tell me like, did you eat today? Yes, what did you eat? And it was at the time, young me, I was eating raspas and ice cream cones and Big Macs, and he would get after me all the time like, no, like you got to do better. There's chicken, there's broccoli, easy stuff, make it simple. And the discipline began there with that. So that's always been a part of me as well.
That's interesting because then, it's kind of interesting that you had a coach in boxing and then you kind of have a coach in Shay and your yoga too. So,
Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's so wild. There was one time I'll never forget, like, I was the only one that showed up to Shay's class.
Mm-hmm.
And this was maybe like my 9 months into YTT. And it was just me and her. And she says, so what do you want to work on? And I was like, I don't know. I go, can I try the Sun A? And she said, yeah, like we'll do 3 each back to back. We'll
Mhm.
guide the flow. And holy cow, like it was like that moment with my friend when he punched me in the face.
Yeah.
Except she used her words. She like led the Sun A 3 times, and then I stepped in, and it was like so choppy. My voice was probably very, very low, and I was trembling, trying to guide like the inhale, arms are up, exhale, sit,
Yeah.
forward, fold, inhale, halfway lift. But when I finished my 3, I just like, I think we were in like a high plank and she was going to start. And I was just staring at my mat and I was like, holy shit, I have a lot more to go. Like,
I cried during my first Sunday teaching. I did. And I mean, I sold beer for a living. I was always like in like a corporate situation where I had people that were watching me present, and like I had no problem doing that. I stood up in front of a room full of yogis to teach Sun A, and I started crying. And I was like, why am I crying? Why am I crying? I still to this day really don't know, but I think it was because you're tapping into a different side of yourself.
yeah.
That's an open, vulnerable place.
It is. It is. And I don't think people like see that. I think that's also what made me love the variety of trainers I was attending classes with. Because coming as like a boxing trainer, a lot of times like I feel like you aren't the main character at all, but people come in and it might expect something from the trainer. And I don't think they understand like the energy you have to provide holding space,
Right. Right.
And so I see that for sure. Like it's a lot of pressure. It can be a lot of
Yeah.
pressure.
And it's interesting too, because it's almost like that idea of like excitement and anxiety run on the same wavelength and same frequency. So I think that where like in boxing, you might just go to like the I'm ready to go, like I'm pumping myself up, or whatever kind of ritual you have. And then in yoga, it's like, okay, I've got to ground myself. I've got to be able to hold my energy and not let it impact their practice,
Yeah.
which is difficult.
Yeah, that is interesting, the whole energy thing. And I often wonder because when I did my first yoga class, it was a different feeling like than what you get in a boxing scenario.
Mm-hmm.
I remember laying there on the floor and I think they were having us do waterfall pose, and my legs were up in the air and they were like trembling, trembling, trembling. And I was freaking out because I had never felt that. But like yoga for me was like a bit of like, this is my space to like really breathe and, be more aware of everything in the body.
Yeah.
As in boxing, like I think your adrenaline gets a pump at times,
Mm-hmm.
and you get like that laser focus or like the drishti,
Yeah.
you focus on one thing and your brain's just kind of like running
Yeah.
150 beats per minute,
Mhm.
or second. Yeah, it's wild.
That's
I like
crazy.
that, the energies for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I know you mentioned that you want to be your best self for your boys, right? I was curious, have your kids noticed a shift in you? Like, what kind of conversations are you having with them about yoga?
So I do hope they see the shift they've seen in me, because there's been a lot of like events that's happened now, like with them growing up, hormones are like changing up.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gotten through like scenarios differently. Like back then, early, because I've had them almost 3 years, and I remember like my year 1, I just didn't know how to handle a lot of situations. I was getting like frustrated.
Yeah.
It usually ended up with, let's all just separate from each other,
Mm-hmm.
take a breather, which could work in some cases, but I was doing that often. And now it's like, hold on, guys, what is going on? Let's try to talk it out a bit. Like,
Yeah.
Like, where's the problem rooting from? Can we like find a resolvement between all of us? So I do hope like they see the changes. And I'm sure they have, because there's just different stuff they do now. Like, I know that when there's been scenarios where it could be very heated,
Mm-hmm.
they've noticed that I come out with things like, all right, let's take a breath, sit down a bit, breathe in through your nostril,
Mm-hmm.
exhale through your mouth a few times, fill the lungs up. And they used to look at me like, what the fuck are you talking
Exactly.
What
Exactly.
are you talking about? But it's wild because it's progressed. Like, it definitely has progressed to the point where when I bring that up, breathe in, breathe out, I can see their chest expanding,
Mm-hmm.
their back expanding, and then
Yeah.
they're exhaling. And like, stuff like that. Like, I've talked to them. And when we talk yoga, it's funny because last night I got home and I was going over some homework that my current teacher gave me. And I remember I got home and I said, what the fuck is yoga?
Yeah.
I'm
Exactly.
I'm like,
Yeah.
what is yoga? And I just went into the house and I told, everybody that was there, my mom, my brother, my kids, and I go, do you guys know what yoga is? And they were like, my son was like, it's working out. And I go, it can be. And then my mom said, twist and turns. And I said, yeah, I mean, there's no to that. And I started thinking, like, yoga is just living through a lot of the stuff, you're going through.
Mm-hmm.
It's being able to, like, just flow with it.
Yeah.
So, like, with the kids, I'm hoping they pick that up a bit, because
They will.
Yeah, we did a little yoga, I would say like a month ago, and it was just like a guided meditation.
Mm.
And they knocked out. I gave them all the like great shavasana assists.
Yeah.
And afterwards, they knocked out. And I asked them the next day, how'd you sleep last night? And both of them said, amazing. It
Mm-hmm.
was great. Like, it was awesome.
Yeah.
So,
It's really amazing to me that when a parent models behavior instead of speaking to it or shoving it down their throat constantly, like, you have to be this kind of person. It's like, no, if you just start to act the way you want them to be, then it will bleed into them in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
I remember going through my teacher training and then coming home and being able to be clear in what I wanted them to do. Inhale, bend down, pick up your shoe, or exhale, pull, bend down, pick up your shoes. Inhale, stand up, walk all the way over to the front door and put them there. It's like I was able to guide them in a clearer way, without judgment, without frustration. God loving. There's still times where we'll scream at each other,
Yeah.
but for the most part, I feel like I've been able to take away judgment and take away the irritation of, why haven't you done this when I asked you to do it, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And being able to just say, like, okay, take a breath.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
It's huge. It's huge. I
Yeah.
always say that yoga teaches you how not to be an asshole.
It does.
It's like
And,
the non-asshole for dummy book,
and it's like, it's true, because sometimes I can still be an asshole, but not too
Yeah.
much. Like, I've caught myself so many times and I'm like, no,
Yeah.
just breathe, dude. Like, everything's going to be good.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things, like, I want to like push on to them, because I know like there was maybe a rise in bullying at school, and
Mhm.
I know school like can provide a lot of like anxiety, and
Yeah.
I think giving kids the tools to practice that, the accessible tools like
Yeah.
breathing and, movement, that will definitely set them up for success. Like, when
100%.
they're surrounded by other people or schoolmates.
Yeah.
And, just having like them, we've done a lot of like moving back and forth, and we moved recently, like 2 months ago. And it like really hit me hard for a bit, because my son said, I don't want to move. Like,
Mm.
this is going to be our 5th time moving since we've been back and forth with you and mom. And
Oh, okay.
like, it kind of like, it hit deep. And my first response was, like, I've been there, like, I've been there before. But the thing is, we have different, like, paths. So I can't really, like, guide him there. And I
Yeah.
tried. But one of the things was, like, just take it easy. Anytime you go to school, I want you to, like, say one affirmation or get a
Mm,
few breaths in,
yeah.
and just everything will be fine. And another thing we recently did was like the Yamas and Niyamas book, which is
Nice.
nuts. Yeah, because you can use so much in that book in your like daily life. And
Absolutely.
reading it to the kids, it was just like super cool because I think they talk about Mr. Miyagi in there and like Karate Kid. They
Hmm.
use like these little like
Yeah.
references.
Yeah.
But yeah,
That's so cool. So what was our next question?
We actually haven't done this one today, but the in the flow one, if you want
Yeah.
to do that one.
Yeah. So thinking about kind of like when you've been in a moment in your practice or in your teaching where everything's firing right, you're in the flow, you're having that moment of bliss, either on your mat or an aha moment. Do you have any of those that you could share with us?
Yes, I think there's been several times. One time was I was doing a class and her name's Brandy. She had like these singing bowls.
Mm.
We did a whole flow. I was already in YTT and I remember doing her flow. And after her flow, she busted out like the singing bowls. And I'm pretty sure we did a lot of heart openers. If not, like it was something else. But I remember she busted those bowls out, and I started like feeling so wild in my chest and my
Mhm.
throat. And then I just started bursting into tears. I started like crying,
Yeah.
and I was freaking out because I didn't know what was going on. And that's when I said, like, I'm in the right place at the right time. Like,
Mm.
whatever, like, was meant for this day, it just happened to land here.
Yeah.
There was that for sure. And then there was like another time doing, I was practicing a physical practice, and I think they had us in like down dog, like for 5 breaths. And they kept saying something about the drishti, keep it like focused, keep your drishti focused. And I remember feeling like super like blissful.
Mhm.
My eyes were like half shut, almost like I was falling asleep, which
Mhm.
is wild because I don't think you'd hear like I almost fell asleep in a
Down
down
dog.
dog. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like it just felt so right. And like there was just a moment of like clarity. And I thought again, like, you need to like just relax, slow down, and enjoy the moment right now.
Yeah.
So that was another one, and they're just like these big things that just kind of remind me, like, it's all good.
I love that.
Yeah.
You said it best too, like with your kids and seeing them in the present moment, right? And
Yeah.
being with them and being present. Like it's so easy to be on your phone and doing things and then trying to interact with your kids. So I've made a commitment to myself and to my family to like spend quality time with them. It may not be 3 hours, it may be 5 minutes.
Right.
But it's like a 5-minute conversation that can be so much more impactful and meaningful than me just kind of rushing around, busy,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
I hate. So did you do Shay's emo yoga?
Yes. So before I like went to the rock box, before I like started teaching, she did invite me. She said, I need you to like try out an emo yoga just so you see like the vibes and
Yeah.
what it's like. And I remember doing the emo yoga and I thought like, this is dope.
Mhm.
This is a badass idea.
Yeah.
Like you get to jam out to like
Yeah.
emo music, and it was like a stretch and rest. I think I had like a long day and I was like, dude, this is perfect. Like
Yeah.
you do this like at 7-8 p.m. and then you choose, it opens up your
Yeah.
night, which for me, like being a dad, it's like go to sleep by like 10,
Yeah,
11.
exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh man. Now, so when you went through teacher training, do you teach on a regular basis now?
So right now my consistent schedule is once a month. Yeah. And a lot of like the teachers kind of like wanted me to start teaching ASAP, which was a goal, but I ended up thinking like I just took on another 300-hour
Yeah, training.
and I have a lot of stuff going on. Like it is true what they say, you know, if you can't be present in your own self, like how are you supposed to be present for others in
Yeah.
another room?
No, that's good.
Yeah, so for me, it's like once a month is fine, and it gives me time to like set intentions for the next class.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's a really good point because, you know, when you are in the thick of it, you know, and you're going through all these trainings and all these hours, and it's like there's so much that information being thrown at you that it can be really difficult to kind of ground and be ready for other people,
Yeah.
you know? And I don't think that, I think your 300 hour is going to be that push over that will show you that like what you learned in 200 was just a small little sliver.
Dude, and it is like that. Like the 200, it's like you get the baby food, the mush, you
Yeah,
know, this is the stuff you need just for right now to like grow a little more. And the 300 has been like, holy crap. Like
So much information.
there's so much, and there's different paths, and you can really like go your own path.
Which that's one of the things that I think is beautiful that people don't understand. Like people in the yoga world will get stuck on one style. I'm a power yoga teacher. I'm a yin yoga teacher. I'm a Ashtanga yoga teacher. It's like, no, like you have to understand that yoga is so much bigger than first just the physical practice, but then there's other modalities that you can do. There's other types of yoga that you can add in.
Yeah.
And being able to see that clearly pulls the judgment away from I'm an Ashtanga yoga teacher, I'm a Vinyasa teacher, I'm a Yin teacher, you know? It's just fascinating when people put themselves in these holes and I'm like, stop, you're just a yoga teacher.
Yeah.
You know, be a yoga teacher, be you as a yoga teacher.
I love that, and I keep laughing because like right now I'm in a little like Ashtanga phase.
Everybody goes through it.
I'm
Everybody
like,
goes through
in an
it.
Ashtanga phase, and people have asked, "Are you going to teach Ashtanga now?" And I'm like, "No,
Yeah.
no, not yet."
Just learning.
no."
It's
Yeah,
so neat though.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like learning, even the other day, like I was reading something about Ashtanga. So I was like, oh, I want to write down 1 through 18 or 1 through 13 in Sanskrit. So I did. I wrote it all out because I loved that part of the practice when they call the pose with just the number.
Right.
You know, it's like a really cool experience. I like that a lot.
Yeah, that Sanskrit is like wild.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And especially like the energy that comes behind the words too.
Mhm.
Gabe, tell Mia about how you were talking about Johnny Southside.
Oh yeah. So Shay was here. Johnny was on here. Johnny Southside. Johnny from the South Side. Yeah, yeah. So super cool dude. I heard his podcast on here because Shay was on here, and then I got hooked to the podcast. Started like listening to like dabbles all over the place, like different guests, and some of the like. I think you have like meditations, and I saw Johnny's was on there, and I was like, dude, I gotta listen to this guy. Like,
Yeah.
we did like some kind of workshop together. We didn't know each other, but we were like next to each other, kind of flowing. And from there, I was like, dude, he seemed pretty cool. Like you know, he looks like my type of people, you know.
Yeah.
And then I heard his podcast, and I was like, holy shit, Johnny, like. I got to meet this guy, you know? So I heard his podcast, and so much that he talked about, like I could relate, you know, like just a lot. I would say like 80% of the stuff he talked about. And when I heard that, and I never got to tell him. So if you're listening to this, Johnny, like, dude, like it inspired me a lot because it finally made me see that yoga is not for just like one group of people,
Right.
you know?
Right.
Yoga is for all types of people.
Absolutely.
The
Johnny
late-
better be fucking listening to this podcast, by the way. I'll be pissed if he's not.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that guy. I ended up meeting him, like we actually like shook hands and hugged each other like 2 weeks ago. We did a flow together.
Oh.
And I was like, dude, Johnny, like, and it's funny because we're in a group chat because he also teaches where I teach, but he does like dad rock yoga, or like, I think he did like a,
Didn't he do trap?
yeah, he does like different kinds. But yeah, like I connected with him so much. And after that, like now it's cool because all the people I saw, like as teachers and people I like wanted to like surround myself with, now I'm like meeting them all like one by one.
Mhm.
Like, hey, what's going on? Like, I noticed you graduated.
You're putting that out
YTT.
there too.
Yeah.
You're putting that energy out there. Like your energy is so lovely. Like meeting you, you're so kind and you're so loving. And you can tell like you're going to go so far with wherever you decide to take your yoga journey because you're passionate about it and you know that it changes people and it makes the bullshit kind of go away.
It does.
You know?
Thank you. Yeah, that's sweet because it like, and that's how I just want to be with most people, you know, like my genuine self, you know. I'm rediscovering, like not rebranding, but rebuilding myself.
Mhm.
And yoga's just like been the cake.
Yeah.
And I keep telling the YTT peeps that I graduated with, I keep telling them, you know, like use some time, like just kind of connect, you know.
Yeah.
Do all the practices, go outside of the home studio and
Yes.
get the practice in, talk to people, connect, like-minded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Experience yoga
It
instead
is.
of just
Yeah.
like repeating it, right? There's patterns that we get into and you can get stuck at the same studio and there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
There's
no.
nothing wrong with that. But like in our situation, we had a studio that we were loyal to and loved dearly. And when that community fell apart and closed, it's hard, you know?
Mhm.
And so being interconnected throughout the yoga community in your town is important. It's really important. And push yourself outside your comfort zone. You know, we went and took a Keno McGregor workshop at a yoga studio.
Whoa, that is so cool.
Yeah. And we were like, we're not Ashtangas, or Ashtanga yogas, but we're like, we're going to fucking do this. Like, it's going to be cool, you know? And
Yeah.
I think getting outside the box of a studio too is important to kind of see what else is out there. Cool.
Definitely.
What else? What can others learn from your story?
Man, so a lot of people don't know, but I was also alcoholic, and that's where a lot of my journey started too. So like what's wild is like when I started my yoga journey, I was 1 year sober. So there was a lot of emotions going around.
Wow.
And like I didn't know how to handle them because for so many years like I was used to like drowning it with, you know, substance abuse. And I think like learning about the different yoga stuff it could be, like that really like opened my eyes, like, okay, now I know how I can deal with this feeling. Now I know like why like I'm crying like so much when I watch, you know, this type of movie.
Right.
Yeah, so like that's another thing. Like for me, it's just I did that for so many years, and then to restart about 2 years ago since I moved here, it's been like such a blessing, you know.
Congratulations on being sober.
Yeah, thank you.
That's
2 years.
huge.
Yeah, 2 years strong.
It's
Yeah.
huge. We actually had someone on the podcast earlier who her yoga studio, she does sober yoga.
Yo,
And she
that is
works
so
with
cool.
The what's it called? Recovery Refuge, I think. Refuge Recovery Group. And I was telling her that one of my really like near and dear friends has recently hit her rock bottom and has decided to get some outpatient treatment and doing it online. And like she's learning, and we were talking about like the idea of trauma. And she's a privileged white woman, you know, and she's in a group with not privileged white women, and she's starting to feel like, am I the asshole? Like I don't have trauma like these women do. Like
Feels guilty.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
guilty, and then feeling shame for having an alcohol problem, being a white privileged woman. Like, am I the asshole? Am I the one that did this to myself? You
Right,
know, and
right.
trying to kind of work through those feelings. What for you when you decided to get sober? What kind of support system did you have in place?
So when I got sober, I had a lot of like support from my mom for sure. Like shout out mom. I
Yay,
love
mom.
you. Yeah. But she gave me a lot of support, and then I immediately went to like AA meetings. Yeah, as soon as I knew like, all right, this is a straw, you know, you got to make a change. I ended up thankfully like I knew a friend that she told me about an app. and that app helps find meetings like all over the place. So
Is it like where you could go to AA meetings like anytime?
Yeah.
That's what so she just went to an AA meeting for the first time virtually.
Oh, that is awesome.
Yeah. And she said, like, because the group that she's in is not an AA group, it's a woman only group, a recovery
Yes.
group, which is really cool. But she's not religious. So she's having kind of a hard time with understanding like the spiritual part of things, you know?
Of AA.
Yeah, of AA. So she, but she did say that like you could legit like get online and a live class or live meeting is happening at that moment,
Yeah.
anytime you need it.
So you found this app.
Yeah, so the app, like, it was super cool. I don't know if I could say the name
Sure,
of it.
yeah. I think it's helpful.
Oh hell yeah! Say the name. Let's share it with our listeners.
It's such a good app. Like, I remember getting on it right away, and it gives you like options. It's called Meeting Guide. It's a blue icon with a white chair.
Nice meeting guy.
Yeah, so like the best part is you go onto this app and you can set your location, or you can change it to like Alaska or Spain, or
Oh wow.
So there was times where like I couldn't make a meeting because life was just so. My first year sober, it was like so wild and hectic. I had no like direction at all. So there was times where I'd get out of work late, and it was like 10 p.m., 11, and I wanted to go to a meeting. But if I wanted to do that in my town, it was like drive an hour.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I would use this app and set it to like a time zone where it's still earlier.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
A few times I did like meetings with people from California. Sometimes I just did it for fun because I wanted to like
yeah, that's so
transport.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But super good app. Like, I use that forever. That's where like one of my foundations was there. I worked a 12-step program. I remember getting there my first time and like I hated it. I was like, dude, what the fuck is this? Like,
Yeah.
like everybody here is wild. Like,
Yeah.
but then I ended up finding out it's because they remind me of me. Like
That's what she had said too. She said even though their lives like traumatically are way worse on the outside looking in, she said, but we all have the same basic things that we're talking about.
Yeah.
This idea of, not wanting to deal with emotions or not wanting to, wanting to go someplace else,
Yeah.
be someplace else.
Yeah, it was just wild. And I think just like meshing that with yoga, because shortly after that was a bike accident. And then I was they were trying to prescribe me all these meds.
Oh, shit.
And I remember taking the meds for 3 nights, and I'd wake up like super dizzy. And I said, dude, this ain't for you, man. Like,
no, that's scary.
this is like scary, especially with like your past history.
Right.
So I was like, nah, like, don't risk it. Then I got into yoga. So I had the foundation of being like kind of like my true self
Yeah.
through AA. And then after that, like yoga popped in. And then they started, sometimes Shay would say in class, like, you need to like just breathe in a few times and realize that you don't have to like prove yourself to anyone.
Mm-hmm.
Just ground yourself a bit and, you're doing enough.
Yeah.
You're here today. So like stuff like that, like it gave me like reminders, not everything has to be like top notch.
Right.
It's all-
Right. Balls to the wall.
Yeah,
Right.
it's all good. You can slow down.
Yeah, you don't have to be full throttle.
Yeah.
You could go back down to what is it like? I used to do the like the lawn mowing, and it would be like you could be a turtle or you could be a rabbit. It's like that was the 2 speeds on it.
That's it. Yeah, that is funny.
A turtle and a rabbit. Oh man, well, Gabe, this was awesome.
Thank
This was
you.
a really great conversation. I really appreciate the fact that this podcast has kind of helped connect you to other people that are like-minded, and that you've taken the step to now become this incredible yoga teacher.
Yeah, I truly appreciate being on the show, and it's cool because you guys are gonna probably see me evolve.
Absolutely. And you'll be back on the show too, because that's
Yeah.
what we've told all of our other guests. Like,
That's
we
awesome.
definitely want to keep in touch with you, keep on with your journey. And next time we talk, it'll be a totally different conversation, I
That'll be
bet.
so cool. Thank you so much.
Thank
you two were
you.
awesome.
Where can people find you if
Oh,
they
yeah.
want to come practice with you or if they want to follow you on social media?
So social media, I'm on Instagram. It's Damien_Drishti. Let me just kind of make sure that's correct because I just made this profile. Actually, there is no underscore. Damien
Uh-huh.
Drishti.
Nice.
Drishti, like focal point,
I love that.
Ashtanga. And that is pretty much it. I try to stay off socials a bit.
Good.
You might find me at Rockbox if I'm teaching there. I
Good.
do different themed yogas, a lot of rock, Deftones, Radiohead.
Nice.
Might do like a Tool yoga.
Nice. Clutch, like a lot of the old school stuff.
Yeah, the new metal stuff.
Yeah. I love that stuff too. I used to teach spin, and I would always throw in like a Tool or even like a Rage Against the Machine, like some old school stuff.
Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Gabe.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Have a good day.
And we're back. So I really enjoyed meeting Gabe. What a cool guy. First of all, the fact that he reached out to us because he's been listening to the podcast, and he knows a couple of the guests. It's like, I don't know, we're like a little bit, maybe we're getting up there a little bit with our reach for our podcast. I don't know. It's just exciting.
Yeah, we're doing it.
We're doing it. I find it really interesting that Gabe is definitely not our first guest that's had addiction issues. And yoga has been something that has helped a lot of our guests out that have gone through addiction issues. I think we need to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. No, I think it's, a theme that we've come across with a number of guests for a reason. And it's something that I think we've come across with a number of our yoga students as well, is that yoga is very often a tool that people use as they deal with substance abuse or they deal with addiction. And particularly, they find it helpful as they transition towards or navigate sobriety.
Yeah. I mean, now Mia and I are definitely not doctors. We're not professionals. I mean, we're just professional people. I don't know what to say. We're just not professionals. We don't know.
Yogis.
We're yogis. We don't know a lot about, all of the elements of addiction. So if you or anyone else that you know and love is struggling with addiction, you can go to samhsa.gov. That is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services for the United States. There's also a suicide and crisis hotline in the U.S. that you can just dial 988. We'll link these in our show notes. But we just really wanted to be mindful that what we talk about in the commentary is our opinion, right? In yoga, they say one truth, many paths. So we are just giving you our opinion and what we've seen and heard and what you've heard from our listeners, or from our guests rather, that there is this tie with how yoga can help you along your addiction recovery.
Yeah. Or more so, because, of course, some things will be our opinion, but it's also what we know to be true as it relates to perhaps like brain chemistry or the effectiveness of meditation and yoga, with our experience as yoga teachers and the studying that we've done on the topic.
For sure. We did a lot of research too, and there's been a lot of studies on yoga and the brain and yoga and addiction. So, we kind of pooled our resources together and kind of wanted to discuss some of our thoughts on the topic itself.
Yeah, and I think this is something that has come up in a number of episodes, a number of guests, but I think it's almost what's tangible and perhaps what is so, what's the word I'm looking for? It is what perhaps draws people towards meditation and towards yoga if they have been dealing with addiction. And it's that meditation is really, really powerful for your brain. And so, if you've never taken a yoga class, welcome to this podcast.
Yeah.
I would imagine you have, but there's typically a component of meditation to yoga. There's this ability to drop in and be present and to explore and play with mindfulness. And meditation and mindfulness is really, really powerful as it relates to neuroplasticity in our brain, as it relates to creating like new neural pathways, which can be helpful with stress, especially. It can be helpful with our sense of self, with empathy, even with things like memory, it's very tangible things as well, not just kind of these social emotional components of the brain. But I think as we begin to rewire our brain or begin to re-navigate how we comprehend empathy, how we are dealing with stress, that's powerful, right? And
Mhm.
it's tantalizing is the word that's coming to mind, but it's very rewarding, I think. And it's why people, you've heard it on the podcast, say meditation changed my life, yoga changed my life. It's helped me in these really hard moments because we're changing how we think. We're
Yeah.
changing how our brain operates. And I think that I would imagine that is something that is extremely helpful when your brain, because also when you're dealing with addiction, you've probably dealt with some negative neural pathways, right? You've dealt with some negative patterns, and now you're starting to rewire those or reroute those.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in addiction, the way that I've been explained to it by some doctors that I'm friends that are addicts or in recovery have explained it as like your brain is self-sabotaging you. And I always kind of talk about that. I think of my brain as like the worst case scenario handbook, right? It's like all the bad things that could go wrong. My brain is always thinking of them, which is always trying to protect me, right? Make sure that I don't die, make sure I don't get injured. But what I think happens in a brain that has, addiction is that it goes too far, right? And it flips it and tries to self-sabotage you and tries to get you to believe that you cannot make it. So for me, when I think about yoga and addiction specifically, movement is medicine. We all know that. Like if you stand up and you shake your body and then you sit back down again, you'll feel emotionally and physically different. So when we know that we can move and we can move energy in our bodies, and we know that with addiction, we're stuck in these cycles of self-doubt or self-sabotage or self-hatred, even not loving ourselves, then being able to move that energy with an asana practice or sit with that energy with a pranayama practice, a breathwork exercise, or just sit quietly and observe the fluctuations of your mind. That is what yoga is. And those are the tools that you can use to help you navigate addiction and recovery. You want to be in the present moment. And a lot of times when we lean on substance abuse, we're trying to dull how we're feeling in that moment, and yoga kind of forces you to look at yourself and to take ownership of your body and to be able to say, I am a good person. I can show up for myself and I can show up for others. Like I can, like you said, rewire my brain. Neuroplasticity is all about, rewiring the functions of your neurons in your brain so that you can change how you think, right? Even by just speaking positively to yourself instead of saying, oh my gosh, I look so ugly today. Instead you say, I don't look too bad today, or I look pretty good today, or I'm beautiful. When you start to make those changes, she just raised her hand. We're on Zoom. You just raised your hand. That's so cute. I didn't even know you could do those things. I just want you to know
I'm ready. I'm ready because I think sometimes you'll keep going.
I know I can't see you either, so that makes it difficult.
I know.
So yeah, I will keep going. But all of those things to be said is that there is definitely something that we are picking up on, and I'm sure our listeners pick up on, as is, all of medicine, that yoga does help in addiction and recovery.
Right.
Mia,
I think something
your hand is raised.
Yeah. I think something you said is that we all know movement is medicine. And I would actually push that I don't think we all know that.
True.
I think that's something that we learn, and that in itself is powerful. And, I think that is what, again, I don't know why this word tantalizing keeps coming to me, but that is what is so alluring about yoga, right? Like when you realize that you can move your body and move this energy and move your life force in a way that is productive, in a way that is rewarding and satisfying, but not destructive. Because the reality is, I mean, I've not dealt with, substance abuse or addiction, but I have dealt with, you know, disordered eating.
Hmm.
That is very satisfying, but it's distracting for me,
Yeah.
right? It's extremely satisfying I
Right.
mean, for
Right.
me, right? And so, but instead, to have this modality and to have this practice that is satisfying but rewarding and satisfying but empowering is is something you have to learn for yourself. And so I think
Yeah.
when someone who is looking for an outlet, because I don't know, but at least for myself, when I have dealt with with modalities or practices of self harm,
Hmm.
I am looking for an outlet. I'm looking for something that I can control, that can manipulate the way that I'm feeling about myself, the way that I'm feeling about a situation, that can alter that, right?
Right.
And to then find something that can still do that. It can manipulate how I'm feeling, it can alter my current state, but it doesn't have a downward spiral afterwards,
Right.
is huge. Like, it has an upward steps, like I'm now going in the right direction. And then to realize it, so you can have that, you can have this movement of energy, you can have this movement of life force, you can have this practice that's getting what you want from it and rewarding and positive and a good influence, is like, oh shit, I didn't know this existed.
No,
And I
100.
think
Yeah.
that's kind of what happens for people.
No, I agree with you. I mean, a lot of times you're like seeking like a temporary relief, right? For like
Yeah.
how you're feeling in the moment, instead of just being like, these are feelings, these are emotions, these aren't who I am, these are what I feel. And I can move with them, I can move past them, I can move around them, right? But I can't really do any of those things. I have to go through them. I have to go through them. You have to go through the emotions. You gotta put yourself in that situation and live in that present moment. And there's ways to deal with those feelings with yoga. I find one of the best things to do when I'm struggling to find myself in a moment of like, feeling uneasy or disordered or panicky, alternate nostril breathing. That's always been one of my go-tos, is being able to sit and regulate my breath and calm down my brain legitimately and like physiologically.
Right.
I do think it's interesting too that there's been studies done about yoga and its effect on the brain, and specifically the prefrontal cortex, which that's the part of your brain that's responsible for self-control. And it's also an area that can be super affected by addiction. And so when you
Right.
practice yoga, there's actually studies that show that your development of your prefrontal cortex is happening while you're practicing yoga. Like, you're getting more and more developed in your sense of self-control. Like, you get to own your
Which is
body.
huge.
Yeah, you get to own your body, bitch, right? It's yours. But I feel like it's just interesting that, when you're feeling out of sorts and you have addiction that's within you in some way, shape, or form, like, you have some tools available to you that you don't even have to get up and move from your space. You can sit there and breathe. You can move your body. There's different things that you can do, whether you're in bed and you can't move your legs, you can move your arms. You can breathe. You can do things that will make your body change how it feels, by like physiologically, chemically, emotionally. And I think I say like movement is medicine because it's more of like an innate knowing that we know this, right? Like, we know it when your body shivers, it's trying to get itself warm, right? So it's moving energy to try to warm itself. So it's more about like, we innately know that movement will help us. Like, if we get up and we shake it off, right? If we get up and we move around, we change our, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, when we change our space in a room.
Environment?
Yeah, our environment. Thank you. When we change our environment, getting up and doing those kind of things moves energy. So I guess I mean it more from like it inside your body, you may not know it in your brain.
Yeah.
I think we
I
covered
think
everything.
we hit it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we did good. So if you are struggling with addiction and recovery in any way, go back through our podcast and listen to some of our other episodes. You can get some really good guidance from people that have used yoga as a practice to help support them through their recovery.
Yeah, it's been something I've actually been thinking about lately, is kind of grouping some of our interviews together based on themes.
Mm.
And so this is kind of a good kick in the butt to finally do that. And I think I'll be creating a playlist of episodes of our guests who have talked about addiction or sobriety or that kind of journey of yoga and the two. So if you enjoyed this episode, it's something you want a little more content around, you can check out our link tree and you'll see a Spotify playlist where you can see all of our guests that have talked about this topic.
That's very cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Spotify. Before we go, I do have to say I'm really excited to start our 15-day meditation challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
Journey.
So one final plug around that. This episode is coming out on April 22nd, 2024. And on April 23rd, 2024, we are starting a meditation exploration. This is a 15-day opportunity for you to grow your meditation practice. We have live meditations that you can take part in with us in community on Instagram. We're also going to be sending out daily emails with guided meditations and opportunities for reflection. But then we also have our checklist. So if you're looking to build that personal meditation practice, without group, without guidance, then that's also something that you can kind of dedicate these 15 days to and reflect on how that experience goes for you.
I'm really excited about it. I feel like meditation is something that can be a little bit daunting to start on your own. So kind of doing it together as a community with this podcast is a great way to have some support and to have some ideas and some tips and tricks to help you out throughout your journey.
Yeah.
Cool. So what do they have to do in order to get onto the meditation exploration with us?
Oh, yeah. All we need is your email. So head over to Yoga Changed on Instagram, shoot us a DM with your email, and I will make sure you are on our listserv.
Wonderful. I'm really looking forward to doing some of these live Instagram meditations.
Me too.
They'll be fun. All right. Well, don't forget, rate, review, subscribe. Send this episode to someone that you love or care about that you think might benefit from listening to Gabe's story. Don't forget to follow us on the gram at Yoga Changed. Anytime you want to tag us, you can do hashtag Yoga Changed. We can't wait to hear from you. Maybe we'll get some more listeners that want to share their story. You can email us at yogachanged@gmail.com. That's all I got for you. Have a great week.
Bye, yogis.
Bye, yogis.